this week we've seen a big drop with the Mythos model preview release from Anthropic.
Right.
And as we all have kind of followed the story, Anthropic has been kind of butting heads and doing its own arm wrestling competition with the Department of War, which is representing this power faction that we're
That's right.
calling the faceman of it being the 47th administration. So, Cameron, maybe just start us off. Project Glasswing, Mythos. This is being kind of portrayed as a like. I mean, it really sounds like they're pitching it as well. We've achieved Skynet at this point, um,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah. It's just
but
yeah.
it's here. But how does this play? What are we seeing here? And this is very interesting timing from my standpoint here as a macro asset class portfolio manager.
Yeah. So I think to start with is uh Mythos is a new model from Anthropic, right? So if you think back to, let's just go with OpenAI, they've got GPT-5, GPT 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.4 being the most recent one, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Mythos came out, and supposedly, if you compare it on benchmarks, it is about 50% better on all those benchmarks than GPT 5.4. So, for our viewers, for context, the jump from 5.3 to 5.4 was 5 percentage points. The jump from 5.4 to Anthropic's Mythos would be something in the range of 20 percentage points at least. So we're talking about going from effectively last generation GPT to the most recent version of ChatGPT in a single new model generation. So right out the gates, if you believe all of the marketing that Anthropic's putting out, you're already thinking, okay, so this is going to be a massive step change in the capability of this model. I just think about what I was doing with GPT, even 5.1 or 5.2. There's no way I'd be sitting here telling people, oh, I use it every day for coding tasks, things like that, agentic use. But with 5.4 and Opus 4.6, that's where you heard about OpenClaw and some of these other really, set it and forget it type of modalities with LLMs. Uh, if you can imagine, Mythos would then be a complete generational change from that as well. So, as part of this, Anthropic claims that it's so powerful that they're worried about releasing to the general public, but instead have launched Project Glasswing. So, what's going on here is during the course of testing Mythos internally, they
Total
realized,
intelligence op.
yeah, Matt's going to
Just
probably touch on that a little bit, but yeah, during the course of testing, they realized Mythos was able to actually identify core vulnerabilities in things like the Linux kernel, OpenBSD. These are operating systems that we deploy across all of our servers. Everybody that uses any type of hardware or software should be worried about Mythos's capability to find 0 days that we have not used before, and or just have never found, right? And so, just to touch on some of the names here, you've got AWS, Anthropic itself, obviously, Apple, tech companies that we all know and love. But you've got Broadcom, you've got Cisco, you've got Palo Alto Networks. So for those of you who are unaware, those are chip suppliers, networking gear suppliers. These are things that are actually protecting a lot of these companies, their actual physical devices that firewall them from the outside internet. So as we're going through this, Anthropic is basically saying, we think this is going to be a game changer in terms of cybersecurity, that we need to actually only provide access to these companies ahead of time. I believe the total is something in the range of 40 to 45, to give them preemptive access, try to find all of those low hanging fruit, fix those vulnerabilities. Once those are all rolled out, then we can actually release this to the general public. So, Matt, here's where I turn it over to you. I think as we talk about, some of the timing on this, the first thing to note is that the Glasswing news dropped the day after the Iran ceasefire was announced. So I think there's some interesting key points there. But secondarily, then is some of the timing on this. So in the top left here, I've got this Axios news article dated February 13th. That's when kind of news came out that the Pentagon was using Claude, Anthropic's latest model, during the Maduro raid. And then down below is documents from Mythos, from Anthropic themselves, saying they launched it for internal use February 24th. So if I start to think, and I roll back the clock here, Dario Amodei, who's the CEO of Anthropic, absolutely knows that this model's coming out soon, right? It's probably, let's go with February 13th. He's sitting there, he's in some type of meeting review, seeing the model's capabilities. February 24th, he rolls it out. Um, but I think there's something there, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt, here to kind of explain maybe some of those threads that you're seeing in terms of timing, related cases between the DOW and Anthropic, and kind of what's going on maybe in that multi-factional kind of interplay with all of these players.
This is getting insanely complex here, but we talked about one battlefront open, U.S. trying to establish its beachhead inside of Iran and find stakeholders agreeable to its interests as it replaces kind of an incumbent order that's on its own last legs over, probably was stale from the moment it was installed back at the end of World War One, to be honest. But this element of kind of the AI scene, obviously, we've read the headlines. Some of the IRGC attacks into its GCC neighbors were aimed at, these large U.S. Companies' data centers, so AWS. Can't remember if you remember any other specific ones that went offline.
Those are the big ones, yeah.
Um,
But Bahrain and
but
Dubai were the two that got hit.
that was part of this, and obviously the energy resource consumption that these data centers require, like to run at their top speed. They're like athletes, right? You got to feed them the best food, train them, with the best modelers, etc. To make an imperfect analogy, but the GCC partnership, just because of those energy resources as well as the financial balance sheets, they're part of this kind of, let's call it next order, or next steady state that kind of you can kind of see shaping up into existence. So the timing of what we're seeing, just the the awareness of this mythos model, which is kind of being projected as um, like I said, like it seems like this is Skynet, guys. It's here. Is kind of how it's being
Yeah.
presented. Update all your devices. This thing's
If you
gonna
take it
find.
at face value, they're basically saying this thing is going to hack all of you. We'll have full control over everything. You need to be very afraid of it. And also, it's probably smarter than all of you.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. This stuff's probably already smarter than most most of humanity. But the other, the story we were seeing in February, or the narrative that was in the headlines on the AI scene, the biggest story before, the Iran events opened up on February 28th, was this redlining issue with the contracts between Anthropic and the Department of War. Basically, Anthropic wanted to put on um, limitations of use for the United States military. United States military did not want that. It went to court, and I think I saw it got thrown out yesterday. But anyway, you saw
yeah,
the Department of War jump ship, the OpenAI. They accepted all the language in their contracts. Um, but to me, this is just I don't know everything going on here. We're not insiders. We're trying to just read through the grapevines, but um, the timing here, that this is kind of part of this 2 week window, uh, seems important to me. And this may be one of those things that we're only gonna know uh, in hindsight, like, oh,
after the
that make
fact.
that makes sense.